Sony just patented a paid feature and people are not happy. Speaking of unhappy people, Avengers is back in the news, and finally, we now know one of November's PS Plus games. So back when the War for Wakanda expansion came out for Avengers, I was like, maybe this will be a turning point for the game. They brought in a ton of new players, we've got Spider-Man on the horizon, there's great reviews for this content, and it seems like Crystal Dynamics and Square Enix are just hellbent on making sure that no one ever has anything positive to say about their Avengers game. So you guys have probably heard about it at this point, but they just introduced paid XP boosts into the game, and now that the game has been out for over a year, it's on Game Pass, you can kind of see why they would want to introduce paid boosts, right? They've been selling the game for like 20 bucks at GameStop and everywhere else for over a year, and with it on Game Pass, sure, Square Enix got a lump sum of money to like put it on Game Pass, but I'm sure that was a lot lower than it would have been if they had just done it at launch. And it's crazy. It shows how desperate Square Enix is to make back that $150 million that they lost on this game, because not only are they giving PlayStation exclusive content, they're also going to Microsoft and saying, hey, well, we're giving them Spider-Man, but in the meantime, we'll put Avengers on Game Pass. And when you look at this game, you can say, yeah, it doesn't have that big of a player base, and the people who are playing it are probably already grinded out with all the different characters, getting them to max level, but there is a new system that's sort of like the Paragon system in Diablo 3, and if you want to do that for every character, you're going to be spending thousands of hours to max that out. So if you buy one of these paid XP boosts for the game, you can do it in like a week, and a lot of people are obviously paying for it, but other people are upset that this is in the game because initially, before Avengers even came out, they said, Crystal Dynamics said, there would be no pay to win options to being sold in the marketplace. And it gets even crazier and more annoying when you consider that 7 months ago, Crystal Dynamics introduced an XP nerf into the game where you were getting less XP for every character, which was annoying at first, but it really wasn't that big of a knock. Back then, people were like, oh, they're just introducing an XP nerf now, so then in 6 months they can introduce paid boosts to make up for the less XP you're getting, and that's exactly what happened. The worst thing about this is that this happened a couple weeks ago. Crystal Dynamics has been missing in action since then. They've released some paid costumes into the store, they've been tweeting about new costumes that you can buy for real money, but they haven't said anything about these paid boosts that people are very upset about. Like introducing paid XP boosts into a game that retails for $70 on next-gen consoles when it's not on sale is bad enough on its own. It's just the fact that Crystal Dynamics has walked back on pretty much everything they've said about this game. They've been late on every piece of content by months. There's still content they announced multiple times that's not in the game. Like this AIM cloning lab was supposed to be out by the end of last year, and they're just not talking about it anymore. They're like, yeah, that's just not coming. We're not going to talk about it. That was supposed to be a raid. It's just not happening. They've announced new content like a loot system rework, but no, that hasn't come out yet either. But you know what does keep coming out? New skins that they can charge you 20 bucks for on the shop. And they're saying, oh, when Spider-Man comes out, we'll just stay quiet until then. And then when Spider-Man comes out, everyone will forget that they're upset about these paid XP boosts. And I don't think people are going to forget, because the only reason I'm talking about this 2 weeks later is because the subreddit, which is honestly the most offensive subreddit of all time of Crystal Dynamics. They always have some sort of excuse as for why it's okay when weird stuff starts happening in the game. Even they are turning on Crystal Dynamics, and I don't think they are going to forget it. It is absolutely embarrassing that they have the biggest IP in the world over at Square Enix and Crystal Dynamics. They've got a game with the Avengers in it, and they can't figure out how to do it right. I remember back before the game came out, they were talking about how it was going to be a live service looter game, and they said, yeah, we purposely didn't hire anyone who plays Destiny. And man, looking at this game over a year later, you should have hired some people who played Destiny, because that's the only live service that's still around. And yeah, making an Avengers game the way they did is really challenging, but we also had a game called Marvel Heroes, which was basically Diablo 3 with every Marvel hero, and it worked great because it was an isometric game that was an RPG, and it didn't need fully kitted character customization options like Avengers has. And they killed that game when Avengers was announced. So I kind of wish, now that we have Avengers and it's as big of a mess as it is, that we got Marvel Heroes to stick around. Also, I wish Ultimate Alliance 3 was better, because that could have also been a better Avengers game. There's so many better options out there that keep getting screwed by this game too, and that's like the salt in the wound. I just looked at the numbers, and around 80% of you watching right now are not subscribed. So take a quick second, go down below the video, click that red button, and turn your notifications to all. Ever since Days Gone came out on the PC, people have been kind of guessing what the next first-party game coming over to PC would be from Sony, and the first option we were thinking of was Ghost of Tsushima, because that just seems like a huge game in Sony's little hat right now, a huge feather in Sony's hat, an important feather in Sony's hat. I think that's the phrase. Anyway, Ghost of Tsushima is important. They're working on a movie for it. They're definitely working on a sequel. They just put the PS5 PS5 version out, I'm telling you right now, that game will come to PC eventually. But there was a game that everyone was kind of forgetting, and it was God of War from 2018. And now we have the official announcement from Sony that it is coming to PC in January. So you can actually go pre-order it on Steam right now. And just like with all the other PC releases, it's only $50, which it's full price, right? Which is more than you're paying on the PlayStation, but on PC, this is technically a new game, so I'm not going to complain too much. There's going to be a lot more graphical features and stuff like that you don't have on the PS4 and PS5, just like with all these other PC releases. I saw the classic people on Twitter being upset about it, saying this dilutes the PlayStation brand, but it really doesn't, because if you take God of War and put it on PC and then say we're not going to put God of War Ragnarok on PC for like 5 years, all those people who played God of War on PC might go buy a PS5 just to play the sequel. You know, it gets people in. It also takes a game that isn't selling any more copies because it's been given away for free so many times or put down to like $10 on the PS4, and it gives it a new life to make more money, which in the long run is good because that means Sony makes money and we get more games. Personally, I got pretty close to platinum in God of War when it came out in 2018, and it's still pretty fresh in my mind because of how good that game was. So even when it comes out on PC, if it is a great port, I'll probably wait for a Steam sale to dive back in, because God of War Ragnarok is the next thing on the horizon for me. I'll want to play God of War again just to get excited for it. It's just not time yet, and I don't need to pay full price for the game again. So as we quickly approach the end of October, everyone's already looking forward to November because we're about to get the next PS Plus games announced. Now last month, I said that Mortal Kombat X was a good option for PlayStation Plus, and I think on the surface it is, but when you look into what they offered up with Mortal Kombat X, that was definitely a weaker option. They gave you the base game with none of the DLC. I think at this point, with Mortal Kombat 11 being done with its DLC, like they're officially done working on that game, you could have given us the whole Mortal Kombat XL, Sony. That probably would have gone over a little better because that game had some pretty awesome DLC characters like Alien and Predator. Making Alien and Predator fight and then them both having fatalities, that would have been nice to have. But no, Sony gave us the base game and the DLC is pretty expensive still. So that was a bad option, and we now know one of the options for November, and it's kind of like a halfway there point. It's still not great. So earlier in the year, in April, we got Oddworld Soulstorm, which got pretty good reviews. It was a next-gen game coming out when there weren't a lot of next-gen games, and unfortunately, at least one of the games this month is going to be a re-release of Oddworld Soulstorm in its enhanced edition form. Now this is kind of odd because usually with these enhanced editions, you only see them when a game is moving from PS3 to PS4 or PS4 to PS4 Pro or PS4 Pro to PS5. You know, like there's a reason to have an enhanced edition, but this is just like a patch that improves the game, which was already a next-gen game. So I feel like if I played this in April, right, and then just a few months later I was getting an enhanced edition, it's like, why didn't you hold the game off until it was finished? Because that makes me feel like the game came out a little underbaked, you know what I'm saying? And the reason this is being considered a PS Plus game is because it's a free upgrade that you can still download even if you have the original release of Oddworld Soulstorm. And I gotta give Oddworld Inhabit its credits there because that's not something that generally happens. Like Final Fantasy VII Remake Part 1 was on PS Plus earlier this year, but it was just the PS4 version and you couldn't get the free next-gen upgrade even if you downloaded that PS4 version, and the same thing happened when it was on PS Now. So the fact that we are getting this next-gen upgrade, it's like a new upgrade for the next gen version. I just hope this doesn't take the place of the mainline PS5 game this month, because they've already also announced that we are getting 3 free VR games alongside everything else. So I hope they're not like, well, because we're giving you 3 free VR games this month, we're going to give you an update to a game we had back in April. That would go over pretty bad in my opinion. And finally, this is why I tell you guys at the end of every month, even if you don't know if you're going to play a game, still add it to your account because it might get an update later down the line that makes you want to play it. And that's exactly what's happening with Oddworld Soulstorm. So make sure you go add the October games to your account, because maybe in a couple months they'll give you an update for Mortal Kombat X that gives you the XL DLC for free. But if you want to keep up with all the PS Plus games as they are announced, make sure you're subscribed and have your notifications set to all. So Sony's been in the news a lot lately for positive reasons, but that good streak's gotta end with a new patent they're filing. So basically what Sony wants to do is, if I'm a streamer or someone broadcasting a game live PS5 and I get paired up with someone who's not very good at the game, or they're being a jerk to me or something like that, I can just drop a cool little microtransaction to kick them out of the game. And you can also send them messages that say, hey, you're not doing well enough to be in this party, I'm gonna pay to kick you out of the game if you don't improve your play. Now, when you dig deeper into this, it really seems like an esports feature where you can kind of bench a player on your team who's not doing great and swap them in with someone who's benched and hasn't played yet. And that seems kind of interesting for like the esports aspect of it. But if this ever makes it out of the esports side of things, that's gonna just ruin online gaming for a lot of people, because, you know, skill-based matchmaking is a thing that really upsets people, and you're seeing a lot of games coming out and actually having a marketing feature that says we don't use skill-based matchmaking. And if you don't know what that is, basically it makes it so people who are just stomping every single game get paired with people who are stomping every single game, and it tries its best to match up equal skill players. And then streamers obviously don't like that, because they love when they can get on stream on Twitch and play Call of Duty, Black Ops Cold War, or Warzone and just absolutely obliterate people who aren't as good as them, because that makes it easy for them to stream. But then when they're paired up with people who are actually as good as them, they have to try a little bit more to actually do well, and that's frustrating for them on their side, which I kind of get. But as someone who's generally being stomped by streamers, I'm fine with them being put in their pool of great people, and I can be with the normies who aren't very good at Call of Duty. You know what I'm saying? So as one of those people, making it even harder for me by giving these people who are way better an ability to just boot me, that kind of sucks. That makes me not want to play the game, because it's like I'm never going to be good enough to not get kicked out of a lobby. That doesn't make it seem fun. Like, I play video games to relax and enjoy myself, not like get sweaty and ruin my night and potentially my entire weekend. And this reminds me of this patent from Activision a few years back where they were going to get rid of skill-based matchmaking entirely, where you would get paired up with people who are at your skill level for a while, but then it would repeatedly pair you up with people who are way better than you, and then it would be like, oh, do you want to drop a little bit of money to get a microtransaction that makes your guns a little bit stronger for the next match so you have a competitive edge? Obviously there was a huge uproar about that, because that would just ruin the competitive nature of games, and especially since Activision also has an esports scene, I feel like that would be pretty bad, and we haven't seen anything come out from that. That gives me hope that we'll still be able to get in lobbies and not get booted because someone paid to do it, because honestly, if someone paid to kick me out of a lobby, that'd be pretty humiliating.
So while they might not be putting out games at the caliber of The Last of Us or Ghost of Tsushima, one area where Microsoft definitely has Sony beat is in the controller department. Between being able to customize your own Series X controller in the design lab into a bunch of different colors, or even the Elite controller, which is now going to come in a Halo Infinite version, on the PlayStation side, all you have is the Midnight Black DualSense, the Cosmic Red DualSense, and the White DualSense, if you're talking about official controllers from Sony. We've talked about a few different Pro controllers that are third party here on the channel for the PS5, but one we haven't talked about is the one from Scuf Gaming, because I don't know if you guys have checked in a while, but up until now, they have not had a controller. They have an Xbox Series X controller that you can customize over on their site to be a Pro controller, but not a DualSense, and I'm pretty sure that comes down to the fact that it uses haptic feedback and adaptive triggers, and if they're starting with the controller as a base, that means that they have to like increase the price by quite a lot, because they have to cover that $70 MSRP of the DualSense controller. There's actually supposed to be a Pro controller coming from them this summer, but because of supply chain issues, they just pushed the launch of this controller to November. They've got a little picture of it down in the tweet where they announced this, and it looks like a pretty cool Scuf controller. The thing I like about these is that they don't change the overall design all that much. They kind of just add features on. Some people have complained about drift issues with them, but honestly, whatever controller you buy, whether you get it from Sony or Scuf Gaming, you're gonna potentially have drift eventually, because that's just something that happens to controllers. And if you look at their Series X controller, they have some cool stuff like a padded back, and they have faceplates that look like they're magnetic, I guess, that you can swap out. They've got extra buttons, they've got patterns on the triggers, like a hex pattern. It looks really cool. It just looks a lot more premium than what we've seen from other creators like Hex Gaming. Like the one I looked at is really nice and high quality, but it honestly just feels like a painted DualSense. Now, if I got this Scuf Gaming one, I think I would see at least a few more differences. And as for the price, I'm not quite sure what it's going to be just yet, but if you look at the Xbox Series X version of the Scuf Gaming controller, that one's around $170, which is the same price as the Elite controller on the Xbox side. So if they can meet that price point, I think that's honestly not that bad. The controller itself is $70, so you're really paying a $100 premium on top of that to get these extra Scuf features. And if you're going to pay the same thing on the Xbox side, I think that's fine. Overall, these prices are a little crazy to me. I'm like a little hesitant to drop about half the cost of a console on a controller. But if you're into a Pro controller with all the extra buttons and stuff like that, and you've been waiting for the SCUF controller, it looks like you're gonna have it by mid-November. Anyway guys, that's all the PlayStation news I have for you today. Make sure you let me know what you think down in the comments below, and remember to subscribe and set your notifications to all if you haven't already. As always guys, my name is Jimmy Champagne, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.